Who's going to win this week? This week is a war, and the war is between the media and the Democratic establishment and the Biden family, most notably Jill Biden. And I see this morning Joe Biden finds himself at a coffee shop in Philadelphia with the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. That was yesterday. So he got done in Pennsylvania yesterday. He's continuing on the campaign, of course, this morning as he tries to solidify himself as the guy and confirms that he is the one who can win again in 2024, who can beat Donald Trump for a second straight time and be a two-term president. But, of course, if the media has its way and if the Democratic establishment has its way, Joe's not going to make it to the ballot in November. They want him out. That's very clear. There's a reason all these embarrassing stories have come out over the weekend about Joe Biden. New York Times reporting over the weekend that a senior White House official anonymously saying that Joe Biden basically needs to step aside. Axios reporting over the weekend that there is real concern within the Democratic Party that Joe Biden can make it to November, that he's the best guy to be on the top of the ticket right now. These leaks, these reports aren't happening just suddenly out of nowhere. It's a carefully coordinated effort to get him out. But Joe Biden doesn't want to go. And there was an article written by The Atlantic. The Atlantic is, a left-wing, left-leaning, whatever you want to call it, former magazine, now just an online publication. And the headline was Joe Biden's momentous choice. And they go on to talk about Jill Biden and how basically this whole thing is up to her. And it may come down to this week. They write here that First Lady Jill Biden has a momentous choice to make. Does she encourage her husband to overlook his personal well-being, recover from last week's debate debacle, and keep up the campaign until November? Or does she persuade him to step aside and yield the nomination to someone else? And the article goes on to talk about Eleanor Roosevelt, Lady Bird Johnson, how they faced difficult decisions as well. They came to very different conclusions. Of course, Eleanor Roosevelt supported her husband's candidacy in 1944. On the other hand, Johnson was the leading voice in her husband's inner circle, calling for him to not run in 1968 for a full second term. So they talk about these two from a historical perspective and what it means for Joe Biden and then Jill Biden and what she should do. Well, if Jill Biden cares about her husband, she should put the kibosh on this thing. She should have done it Friday morning, 10 days ago, the morning after the debate. She should have walked in there to her husband and said, honey, I love you. I care about you. It's over. You can't do this anymore. Instead, it seems like she is full steam ahead. And don't kid yourself. When it comes to the power, when it comes to the ego of flying Air Force One, of having, the White House as your home, that gets to anybody and everybody. We are all flawed. We all sin, and the power that you get being in that position is the kind of power that 99.999% of us will never experience and can't even fathom. But it's clear to me that the power has gotten to Jill Biden's head because nothing else makes sense. Regardless of what you think of Joe Biden and Jill Biden individually, the politics, she always seemed like someone who cared about Joe, was loyal to him. I mean, they certainly have their family issues, but she certainly seemed like for their marriage, she loved the guy. I don't know how you can love this man and allow him to continue on as is. You can't say it's about, political leadership because the polling shows it's not good for him. The polling suggests he's going to lose to Donald Trump. So it's not like you can make the argument of saying, well, he might be not what he was, but he's in the best position to win. Well, he's not in a position to win right now, if you believe the polls. Not just one poll, but across the board. So it can't be about politics. But no matter what, your family should far always supersede anything with your profession and certainly anything politically. Joe Biden has achieved what he set out to achieve 50 plus years ago. And that's become president of the United States. There's nothing left for him to prove, and that's what she can tell him. Joe, you're 80 years old. Maybe the guy's got a few good years left in him. And that's a relative use of the word good. Do you want to enjoy those in peace and quiet as a family in Delaware? Or do you want to do it in the White House, where every move for the next 4 years is going to be mocked, is going to be ridiculed? Is that the last impression you want to leave people with in the public eye? And no decent person who cares about their spouse can possibly come to the conclusion that that's the best option, that that's how you want them to be remembered. Joe Biden resigns to, not resign, whatever. He announces he's not running for re-election tomorrow, and history will be much kinder to him. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter, but history will be much kinder to him. But if he goes full steam ahead, I mean, if you're Joe Biden, how do you listen to the interview? How do you watch the interview that Joe did with George Stephanopoulos over the weekend and continue on with this? The guy is talking like my toddlers.
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do, that's what this is about.
I did the goodest job? I mean, it's like me at the dinner table last night. We're sitting there with the girls, and Claire, who's 5, is like, Chloe bited me. I'm like, Bit! We speak English in this house. I mean, I didn't actually yell at her. I'm just like, hey, Bit, let's get our tenses right around here, okay? Before you start complaining about who bit who, we got to make sure we're saying it right. I mean, if my 5-year-old says, I had the goodest day, Dad, I'm like, good, it was a good day, the best day. You have the leader of the free world using words and phrases that you would criticize and I would correct my toddler, my 5-year-old for using. And it's not like this is a one-off, right? It's not like I'm doing this and it's, oh yeah, it's the one time he said something like this. The guy didn't make any sense over the weekend. Along with talking about doing the goodest job he can do, he was asked a very simple question by George Stephanopoulos. Are you being honest with yourself?
Are you sure you're being honest with yourself when you say you have the mental and physical capacity to serve another 4 years?
Yes, I am, because, George, the last thing I want to do is not be able to meet that. I think, as some of the senior economists and senior foreign policy specialists say, if I stop now, I'd go down in history as a pretty successful president. No one thought I could get done what we got done.
But are you being honest with yourself as well about your ability to defeat Donald Trump right now?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
You get a lot of confidence hearing that. You hear that and say to yourself, yeah, that's the guy right there. He's got it all together. Don't you worry. He's the goodest guy for the job. Come on now. Be honest with yourself. Even if you can't stand Trump, be honest with yourself. You cannot listen to a man who talks the way this guy does, who clearly is not engaged in the conversations that he's having, who cannot answer the simple questions presented to him and feel like it's the best way forward for America. You know that. I know that. How does Joe Biden not know it? We are entering the spousal abuse phase of this re-election campaign. That's not a political comment. That's just being a human being and seeing what we are all witnessing. And the fact that she is really apparently, according to all reports, it's Jill and Hunter driving the train right now. If you believe the reports from Axios and some of the other outlets who are saying Joe's going on, then it is familial abuse of the highest power. And we're witnessing it firsthand.